JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created, James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available, where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com code podcast. That's JamesAllen.com code podcast.
So I'm a father of one. I gotta find a babysitter. I found Care.com and I was blown away. Through the platform, I was able to find local and experienced candidates along with their reviews and rates, which were way more affordable than I anticipated. Care.com really put me at ease knowing that they were all required to go through a background check. If you're like me and you need to find someone reliable for your childcare necessities, check out Care.com. Find the ideal sitters for your childcare needs.
Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, GoPowerCat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, from the GPC studios, here's your host, GoPowerCat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
It's another edition of the PowerCat Questions Podcast, your weekly adventure into Kansas State athletics. It's an adventure foray. Maybe we'll use that word if that's used correctly. Anyhow, Tim Fitzgerald, Zach Carlson, and Ryan Gilbert is your crew for the day. I don't know what Cole's doing. He's off teaching young men about balls and strikes. I should have put a longer pause in there to make it more. Anyhow, Cole's off coaching baseball. He's an assistant coach at Riley County. Nope. Excuse me.
Leave it out.
Back up.
The other RC.
Yeah, Rock
here.
Creek. Yep. As soon as I came off the mouth, I'm like, oh, that's not right. Rock Creek. But he will be joining us for the overtime. That will appear over the weekend whenever I get the energy to do it. We're sponsored by The Fridge Wholesale Liquor, and I want to personally thank Kevin and everyone at The Fridge. My wife runs a big auction every year. It's Friday night at Meadowlark Hills. She's the development director there. It's called Art Mingle. It's an art and entertainment thing. She would not let me get a costume as the mascot, Art Mingle. She claims it's not a person. But
is the logo still the same that you made of Art Mingle?
It is. I have a little stick figure face in the middle of it's Art Mingle. But anyhow, the Fridge made a nice donation of a package of wonderful things, wonderful, delightful treats for your face, your adult face. That'll be part of, I believe, the silent auction over there. If you're bored, hit me up, slide into my DMs or something and say, hey, what is this Art Mingle? Maybe I want to go. It's Friday night. I think it kicks off at 6 p.m. at Meadowlark, right there in their beautiful restaurant, into the courtyard. Oh, it's supposed to be cold. That sucks. Anyhow, thank you, Kevin, and everyone for what you do for the community and for supporting this podcast. No jacking around this week. That was just an honest, sincere thing. Yeah, that's all I got to say. That's it for the podcast. It seems short this week, but that's it. We're going to go. What kind of questions we got? We getting good questions?
There are questions about K-State sports. It's a Kansas State athletics show, right?
That's nice. That's nice. I'm sorry. One more thing I want to say. During my process of what I'm going through, stage 4 metastatic prostate cancer, I've met so many incredible people along the way, either who have survived cancer or battling cancer, and maybe not just prostate cancer. But Chuck Carlton, famous writer from the Dallas Morning News, had advanced prostate cancer. And I saw him. Someone told me at Media Days last July, right? It's Media Days in July, down in Arlington, that I should track down Chuck and talk to him. When I saw Chuck, I didn't recognize Chuck. That's how much toll the cancer had taken on him. He passed away yesterday. So blessings to his family and everyone who knew him. He was a brilliant sports writer. So many of us looked up to him, but he surrendered his fight after. Man, he fought it. It was incredible. by what he went through, but he worked. He died on assignment. He was in a hotel room writing, and I guess for a sports writer, that's a pretty good way to go. So, blessings, Chuck. It was an honor to get to know you. So, on that wonderful, uplifting note, let's get going with your questions from Wabash Station. The theory here is Ryan Gilbert's going to read the questions. I don't know, man. I'm not sold that he can read, but we're going to give it a shot. Here's Gills with your questions.
First question comes from Wildcat Pilot 88.
He's doing okay so far.
Why does it seem easier to recruit four-star and five-star basketball players to Manhattan versus four-star and five-star football players?
Well, I mean, I think one 4 or 5-star basketball player can be sold that they're the difference. They're, this could be your program. This could be your place. Or in the case of what Jerome Tang's doing, I think it's just going to be a program that has a lot of that in it. I think it's easier to build a basketball program. A football program requires such incredible depth and financial commitment. I mean, for heaven's sake, San Diego State went to the final this year. That just doesn't happen. There's no version of, we've seen it now for 2 years in a row. Cincinnati couldn't get out of the semifinals, and TCU did, but then got demolished. The upper crust, not the upper level, the very upper tier of college football is untouchable in so many ways. And it takes someone really special like an LSU, but they're getting 4 or 5-star commitments anyhow to break in and compete with those teams. And I think in basketball, kids realize, well, I can go there, I can play, the fans are great, and maybe I'm going to get my NIL money, and this seems like a good place to go. They don't all go to the KUs and Kentuckys, although a lot of them do. They'll scatter around a little bit more, but you got to have something to sell, and Jerome Tang is pretty good at selling it.
It's just math, basically. Yeah. You can put 11 4 and 5 stars on a football field. If you put 11 4 or 5 stars on a basketball team, that's a lot of unhappy guys riding the bench to play
22
10 minutes.
Look at both sides of the ball.
Sure.
So that even backs it up even more.
So it's just, there's so much talent needed to have a football team, not even for just depth, to put guys out on the field. And if they're going to the SEC, the Alabamas, the Georgias, and if they're not going to the K-States, I mean, it's a lot harder to recruit 4 and 5-star guys for football and say, hey, you're the guy. You're not going to have much around you, but, or you can say, hey, come to Alabama. You're going to be on the field, and you're going to have guys around you that are just as good as you are. So I think it's an easier sell in football when you've already kind of reached that level of stature. But for basketball, there's 5 guys on a court at a time. 2 or 3, 4 or 5 stars on your team isn't going to be a detriment to your playing time, but you start adding more to that, you might not be getting the minutes you want. And that's why there's kind of a greater... it's what makes the NCAA tournament so great, is anybody can win it, right? Because the talent is so much more better distributed, and we've seen it in the women's game with the transfer portal. Teams, the women's basketball used to be kind of similar to the SEC in football, in that there's a few programs that run the show. They're winning the national championship every year. This year, the Final Four was great. South Carolina was really the only quote-unquote blue blood basketball team, and they're the newest one.
Right.
In that kind of core of, the UConns, the Tennessees, whoever, in that upper echelon of women's basketball. So, yeah, it's just, it comes down to the math, basically.
If you're the best wide receiver, you want to go to wherever a really good quarterback is playing. If you're the best running back, you want to have a really good offensive line around you. So those 4 and 5-star guys are just going to Alabama, LSU, all those SEC schools. Whereas in basketball, like Michael Beasley, K-State barely even made the tournament that year, and he was still a lottery pick. So you can prove your worth really no matter what in basketball. But with football, I think it's a lot easier to prove that when you're surrounded by such a good roster, and you kind of rely on other teammates to make yourself look good, if that makes sense.
Agreed. Yeah, it's you can just kind of make your own stage as a 5-star basketball. Michael Beasley did it. It's a perfect example, and you can thrive. It's not like you're going to go to a team and not be noticed because you went to a bad team. If you're a 5-star, you're going to be noticed.
Next question from Big Sam. Is it becoming more and more apparent, at least to me, that NIL is swinging even higher than anticipated in the numbers some universities' backers are throwing around? By how much will K-State have to step up its NIL game to stay competitive for the type of kids our coaches want?
A lot, period. I mean, if the rumors are correct, and I don't know if this player is committed to the school that you heard he was going to get a million smackers to go to.
Yeah, he is.
He did commit.
Yep.
And we haven't verified if that number is accurate, but that's what we were told. Paying $1 million for one season of a basketball transfer is so inconceivable to me. Now do it as a football school, giving $1 million to a basketball player, which this is the case here. That just shocks me. So, yeah. If the numbers are right, we were told that only about $1 million has gone through the K-State NILs altogether. And here's a school giving out that at a time. So, if the donors can't do it at that level, or they prefer to give their money to the school where they get a tax credit or something, even though the NILs are set up as nonprofits, that's up to them. It's their money. They can do what they want. They don't have to give it to anyone. They can go buy a giant boat and sail it through the Panama Canal. You probably wouldn't sail it. You'd probably just drive it. Is that what you do with a boat? Just drive it? I don't know. But, if K-State wants to be able to go get a kid when they really want to go get a kid, then they better get more money going through the NILs. And they better decide that if the NCAA isn't going to enforce using NIL in the recruiting process, which is supposed to still be a violation, and yet they just have ignored it, then go for it. It's like I go 82 to Topeka every day for my radiation treatment. The posted speed limit's 75, but I know that you can get away with 7 miles an hour, so I do that. So I don't care what the law is. This is what I get to do. And that's kind of what the NCAA says. Now, unfortunately, in some ways, NCAA says the speed limit for you is 82, but for this red and blue colored car that's going down the road, they can go 105.
Is it wearing shoes?
Yes, it's wearing yellow shoes with buckles.
That's what I thought.
I don't know why the car is doing that, but that's the problem. But so the fear at Kansas State is you do it, you will get punished as schools such as let's hypothetically say Alabama gets away with stuff that maybe you couldn't.
The thing with K-State is I feel like you want to come to K-State to win. Like NIL isn't necessarily the most important thing for you. If you get that package, sure. And I could be wrong, guys, but you want to come to K-State and win. That's what Kleiman. I know we'll get into that with the next question and Tang how they feel about NIL. But you're not going to commit to K-State just for the money. You're going to come here to try to win, improve your draft prospect, whatever that may be, right? So that's. But it goes without saying, K-State does have to step it up. But it still goes back to the type of players that K-State is recruiting that maybe don't care enough or as much about NIL.
I think NIL for K-State is like the cherry on top of the icing.
Yeah. And
for a lot of these NIL deals, if schools are giving out $1 million to one kid, I mean that's the whole cake. That's just it. Like I don't think you need to use the full cake to get a guy. You can just say, hey, you want to come here? Here's a little extra. There you go. Come make a Twitter post or an Instagram post for $25,000. Is that easy? Okay, cool. Come to Manhattan. Come win.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of the mantra right now.
Yeah, be part of that culture, all that stuff.
I would give you an NIL if I had the money.
Yeah. So you're saying you don't have any money
I
at
have
all?
No money.
You have negative money?
Actually, right now.
After the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, after the NCAA tournament, the company has negative money, and after paying for treatments for me, the Fitzgeralds have negative money. In fact, the dogs have been told they have to get jobs.
Lucha's hiring.
Ooh.
I guess we can't name that on this podcast, can we? Fridge is hiring, I bet.
And I just saw the state pass some laws now that dogs can be on patios now. So there you go.
What? But they can't be off leash in a neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, apparently you couldn't have, if you were a restaurant, you couldn't have dogs on your outdoor patio in the state of Kansas. This state has the dumbest liquor laws.
Was it a liquor law or was it a restaurant law?
It was both.
Okay.
Restaurant. I mean, it was.
I think if you were going to let dude become a server at a restaurant,
he'd be good.
We have a patio.
He would eat a lot of the food before it got to the table. He'd put on another 10 pounds in a week, but hey, dude would give great service.
From Oiler Cat 2, explain the differences in how each Tang, Kleiman, and Gene feel about NIL. What needs to be done to make us competitive with similar programs to ours?
Well, I think Tang's all in on NIL. I think he understands it. And, I think Kleiman's reluctant because I think the NIL, I said this in a daily delivery recently, I think the NIL is a bigger threat to a locker room for a football program because there's so many more guys and you can end up with more disparity in this guy getting six figures for an NIL and not being the best at his position. I mean, that can happen easily in a football locker room. In a football locker room, you can end up with a walk-on, maybe being the best player at a position, and they're not even on scholarship. So the NIL, I think we saw it with Texas A&M. I truly believe the NIL blew up A&M's locker room this year. And that's going to happen all over the place. When you're only dealing with 13, maybe 15 with walk-ons in a basketball locker room, I think it's easier to massage that. And I think Jerome Tang then is a little bit more bought in, and Chris Kleiman's a little more leery. And honestly, I understand why Gene Taylor is reluctant.
Oh, yeah. I think Gene hates it.
I can see exactly why. And I understand of people being critical of him that, he needs to get with the system here. This is how it's going to be decided on a lot of recruiting. But Gene's job is to pay coaches, to keep the athletic department fiscally sound, to, not lose money as a department. And continue to build things and pay off, what they have there. Maybe some donors have backed out of their commitment for, they made a commitment for a building project and ended up backing out. So now K-State's got to cover it. All those things are under Gene's ownership, basically. He'll be held accountable if they fail on any of that. So this outside thing that is going to make his job harder, I get why he might be reluctant about it. Because the simple truth is, although Kansas State's donors have been incredibly generous and stepped forward with these incredible projects like the volleyball arena and everything else, a new indoor, the reality is this is not a big alumni base, and it doesn't have a medical school or something like that. So there are limitations that K-State might realize that other schools don't have. And in the midst of this, the athletics director is trying to keep his budget on track and doing what exactly the fans have told him you need to do. You need to pay these coaches and the assistant coaches. You need to pay them a lot of money. Well, that money's got to come from donors, the same ones that the NIL are tracking, the collectives are trying to get to give money. So I get it. I understand it.
I agree. Does Zach agree?
I agree. I was trying to think of what my point was going to be on top of that.
I was going to say Fitz. I agree with the football stuff, but remember Nigel Pack, there were rumblings about his teammates being upset in Miami with how that all went down. So I think it can be said for both football and basketball.
It's easier. What I'm saying is it's easy to correct. They corrected, then went to the Final Four.
Yeah. Boom. Good point.
Yeah. I think in basketball, it's a lot easier to have a guy that has a big pay disparity, because if he's going to help the team and he's going to help you win, obviously Nigel Pack, you probably would have hoped for more from him, but ultimately they did make the Final Four, and that remedies it. But I think that, think about it like an NBA team. There's guys on the bench that are making $1 million a year, and there's superstars out there that are making $20 million a year. Everybody wants to win, and everybody knows their role. So as long as your basketball team, your college basketball team, understands the roles that each player has and what they mean to the team, you should be content with whatever money is being made off on the side.
It's a lot easier said than done, though.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I think that you should talk about how much money you make too with your teammates. Like I feel like you shouldn't be flaunting around your newfound wealth as an 18-year-old if you made $1 million to transfer to a school. So
Sure.
I think that it's just that comes with it, though.
Not to take a shot at like Ish Masood, because I genuinely I like Ish a lot. I think he's a really good dude, but he didn't accept his role. Like he wants to go play somewhere else. Whereas in the NBA, like you look at, I don't know, like PJ Tucker just comes to my mind. He doesn't really score or do anything but just play good defense. Like I feel like people are a lot more accepting of their roles.
Guys
in the
like
NBA.
Dean Wade.
Yeah, sure.
And
then here, it seems like at Kansas State, if you're not playing, or just in college basketball in general, you're transferring because you want to play more. And I totally respect any player that wants to do that, but you're also going to have to find players that want to be a part of something greater than, just themselves. And if they can contribute, 5-10 minutes a game and do whatever in the practice facility, you got to look for those guys as well. So agree, Zach, but at the same time, it's kind of apples and oranges a little bit with professional and college.
Sure. Absolutely. Because obviously those are contract guys.
Yeah.
When you're on a contract, you have a guaranteed salary. You're just showing up to work at that point. It's a little different for NIL. Absolutely. But, for Gene, I just think that he sees, I don't want to say his world crashing down in front of him, but he's got to balance this money now. That he's got to convince and resell all of the donors. Hey, make sure you're giving your money to me still, and not just paying the players off on the side. Like I get that that's fun and it'll help us win, but I think that he's going to be business first and foremost, and if there's NIL or not, Gene Taylor needs money to run the athletics department.
Absolutely.
And
It is a business itself as well.
Yeah, and that's how he sees it. So,
last question. Go ahead.
Really? Okay, let's do it. Last question.
Did you have something to say?
No, I was
Okay.
going to say let's move on now.
Okay. I was going to say that this is a new member, Snyder's Headset. Welcome to Go Power Cat,
Hold
to
on.
the
So
podcast.
it's the actual headset?
Yeah, it's AI at its finest right here.
Oh my God.
this is their first post. So
If the headset could talk, and it can now. Here we go.
Rank the QB prospects. Kleiman has brought in Lewis, Howard, Lara, Avery, Barnett.
Huh?
who?
What?
It says Barnett on
Is that next? Is that next year? Is that next year? Yeah.
So we hadn't technically brought
He's
him
not
in
here yet.
I can't even, compare him to. Yeah. I think the highest ceiling is Avery. I don't know. I don't want to do this. We're going to piss people off.
Will Howard,
That's number one.
number one.
Well, number two is a hot
Jaron
topic.
Lewis is number two because he has actually played a down for K-State. Number three is Adrian Lara because he might play a down for K-State this year. Number four is Avery because he most certainly will play limited downs this year. And then Barnett is five because he has not taken any snaps for K-State this year or next year probably.
Jake Rubley.
I was going to say, where's Jake Rubley? Snyder's Headset.
There's no Jake Rubley. Maybe you know something. He's the headset.
Speaking of guys that have played at least one snap, Rubley
So
has played.
is this the equivalent of someone last year asking this question and leaving Will Howard off? Is that what we're saying about Jake Rubley right now?
Look, I want to be optimistic about Jake Rubley, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any indication of greatness here. And, he lost his senior year in high school. We got to see Avery play his brains out in his senior year of high school. So we have great faith. We saw him at camps. We saw that poor Jake Rubley is kind of hiding because of COVID, because his timing with his high school career was as bad as it could be because of the pandemic. And yeah, so I just am reluctant to, put him too high on that list. Will Howard's got to be one. And, as of now, Jaron Lewis has got to be the bottom because he wasn't very good. He's a great kid. I hope he gets to play in the MAC, but
Where'd he go? Kent?
That's why I say. That's why I was vague.
Oh, okay.
Zach.
Sorry.
Now you called me out. I can't
Hang on.
remember it.
I'll look it up. We'll look it up.
I'll say that I know this is a podcast here. We're supposed to talk about stuff like this, but Will Howard is the guy, and I think it should be a great feeling knowing that there isn't some, quarterback battle that we have to debate and discuss all the time. Like, what's up, Zach?
I was right.
You were right?
Zach's
always right. But, I mean, it's, as much as we want to talk about this, it's Will Howard, and I think we should all be thankful for that, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay. Zach was right. Zach's always right.
Kent State.
Kent-State.
Golden Flashes.
Kansas State? Yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
Be careful, guys. Don't be a golden flash. That's it for the first half of the PowerCat Questions podcast, sponsored by Fridge Wholesale Liquor. On the other side, we have a limited number of questions because Zach, in his wisdom, and he's so wise, as we just proved with that ending question, has decided to shortchange us on questions.
I didn't. I did make it equal. It is
You found more questions?
I rearranged. We're 4 and 4.
Oh. Well, never mind. Come back for more.
GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast continues after this short break.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Welcome back to the PowerCat podcast. Now, let's return to the GPC studios.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Questions podcast. We're talking about the debauchery that is a certain member of our staff. It's awful. Dude is sleeping on the couch with that he matches.
Dude's a member of the staff?
He is. He's pitiful. He matches the towel or the blanket pretty well. Yeah, with his purples. Daphne's down here being shy. And we're here at the table. No Cole today. He's off coaching young men on how to be better citizens and how to hit a curveball. So we're doing this without him. He'll be back for the overtime.
He's coaching American cricket.
American cricket. That's what we're going to call baseball now?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that's going to catch on at all. Get your questions from Wabash Station. We're sponsored by The Fridge, the wonderful people at The Fridge. Their staff, their managers today, their social media, I love their social media, was they put the old filter on them from, I don't know if it's Instagram or TikTok or whatever. It was creepy as hell because the filter is so good. It literally looks like the version of them in like 20, 30 years. So I need the opposite. I need to find the young guy filter that makes me look like a kid again.
Make you look like you're 47 again.
I know. I'm just, look, I'm so young. Yeah, you're 40. Let's get going with your questions. But stop into the fridge and tell them that they're not as old as they look on the internet.
Okay.
Here we go. Here's Gills. More questions from Wabash Station. These better be good, people. They better be good, or we're all running laps after this.
First question of the second half is from Ema Wildcat 82. Excuse me.
There you go.
How will the running play clock?
Hold on. Is it
Ema and then Wildcat?
Okay, there we go. There wasn't two W's in there. So it's not Ema Wildcat. It's Ema Wildcat or I can't do it.
It's fine. Emo Wildcat.
82 wants to know, how will the running play clock until 2 minutes in each half affect K-State's offensive tempo and defensive strategies? Is this rule change to K-State's advantage?
That's a great question. I don't know. And if you're not familiar, they changed the rule. Need to do a daily delivery on that. Remind me to write that down.
Write that down.
Thank you. I'd already forgotten that the clock doesn't stop on first downs now, except in the final 2 minutes of a half, which I think is a good rule. That'll speed up the game a little bit. I love the fact that they were looking for ways to speed up the game, and nobody said, well, maybe we could be more efficient with our commercials. Because that's the biggest reason why games are going on. They're getting so long now. Yeah, because they keep adding commercial time to make money because they got to pay for these big rights fees. Everyone claims that the ads that play while there's still stuff on the screen aren't effective, but I watch those ads. I think they're highly effective. I get up and go to the kitchen when there's just straight ads on, and if the TV still, if there's still content from the game showing, I'll listen to the Bud ad or whatever ad it is there. I mean, I think it's effective. I wish they'd do more of that, because what happens is they come out of break and then they kind of make a transition and then we're going to kick off. Let's just get right to it. Let's come out of the break and boom, we saw them lining up. We don't need the announcer to tell us it's going to kick off. We know what's going on. But yeah, I don't think it'll affect K-State at all. I don't. It could be a benefit. There's going to be fewer plays. There's just going to be fewer plays. And
which I don't think is a bad thing. I think there was one criticism saying like, oh, now we're going to have less football instead of, more commercials. And it's like, well, remember, offenses in the last 10, 15 years are running way more plays than they used to. Mm-hmm. This will get it somewhat back to normal for at least the number of plays. Tempo and pacing isn't going to change much. It's just going to lead to a little bit short of a game since the clock on first downs keeps running. But it's not like the clock didn't start again once the chains were set either. Once the chains are set, the clock goes.
Yeah, it was just weird.
So it might add, whatever you want to call it, save 10 seconds off the time of a game. I don't know, per play. It's really not going to be that much time.
It's the
and
same
you're not
for
going to
both
notice
teams.
it.
It's not just K-State that gets this, right? So I don't think it matters one way or another.
Yeah.
Unless K-State's playing a team that is better than them, and you can shorten the game, and now you can really have less plays, less possessions. You can try to steal a victory that way, but other than that, I don't see this as being significant.
It comes down to number of first downs and probably 10 seconds per first down. So if there's 50 first down, I don't know how many first downs in a game. That's way too many, but 30 or 40 or what? Looking at 5-10 minutes. I don't know. I did terrible math right there, but that's normal.
Yeah, math and tough. So yeah, I like it. I mean, I like that they're trying to speed up the game, but football, let's be honest here, isn't going to find the magic bullet that baseball did. It's a joy now if you watch baseball. No more screwing around. It got to the point of ridiculousness, and not as ridiculous as some golfers. When I saw that one golfer take more than a minute to putt. I mean, what the hell are you doing?
Patrick Cantley standing over the ball before he hit it? Yeah.
How long does it take Zach Carlson to hit a putt?
I have no idea.
Not that long. Just read it. You know which way it's going.
Let's go hit the damn ball.
Yeah. From KSU, Gene. With the passing of some great visionaries of K-State, who are the solid, steadfast alumni that could carry on?
Well, we're losing a generation. I mean, times are going to change. I mean, men aren't built like Ernie and Jack Vanier and Verl Schweitzer anymore. They're just not. It's different generations. Jack was a, very, very wealthy man, but also a guy that went to work every day and dressed in overalls and, beaten up jackets. I think he was still wearing a Power Cat or a K-State starter jacket around. This incredibly wealthy guy that was very humble about his money. And, Ernie was so dedicated, as was Verl. It's sad watching this generation move on, because these were my guys. I'll be interested to see if anyone becomes as visible. I mean, the Shamrock folks are kind of behind the scenes. People don't know their names. Their company's on everything. But, others will step forward. And, it's just difficult to watch this. And because those three guys meant so much to me, and they're all gone now. So it's sad. I don't know what else to say about this. Hopefully.
I don't know who to speculate on.
But, now it's just a different time. It just really is. I think we should all be thankful for the Veneer family because of what Jack and Donna did, stepping up right at the start of Bill Snyder. Someone needed to do it, and they did it. And their investment, as typical of Jack, when he invested in something, it took off. He just had the Midas touch. He really did.
From Eric Schneid, as the conference expands into new territories, how important will it be for K-State football to establish recruiting footprints in these parts of the country, mainly further west with BYU and areas around the Ohio River Valley with the addition of Cincy?
Well, you can't spread yourself too thin. You got to pick your fights. And this has been my main argument for the inclusion of maybe USF. To have two major markets in Florida belongs to the Big 12 could be really advantageous. That Ohio area is really good for recruiting, but you're still in the very heart of Big Ten country. It's going to be kind of a challenge. And there's just so much talent in Florida that's why Central Florida, UCF, and South Florida, USF have had their moments, have gotten good because there's so much talent that was missed by Power 5 schools in that area. So there's a lot of talent down there, and I think that's the most important place. And the other place places where Kansas State has had success or has been into is Colorado and Arizona. And if those schools come in down the road with further expansion, I think that'll be really good for Kansas State in recruiting. Those are areas that they've proven themselves to have a presence in.
I think BYU is the least relevant zone for recruiting because
there's not much in Utah.
But like BYU is like a national country club where all of the members flying on their private jets to come play golf. Like it's a different lifestyle, so to speak. It's a certain type of kid that wants to go to BYU. I don't think you're competing for athletes with BYU.
Even that area.
Even
BYU
that area.
BYU is the Grand Poobah out there.
Right. But I think a lot of their guys are coming from out of state as well. So it's not like, Utah players, high school players are necessarily wanting to go play for BYU. So, but I said that it's not as big of a deal for, Utah and out west, but I mean, kind of like you said about trying to get Ohio, it's going to be tough because you're competing with the Big Ten. Florida, you're still competing with the SEC. But, you should try. You should be in these areas a little bit, but you wouldn't want to spend probably a significant amount of time on recruiting those areas. Stick to what you know. Stick to Texas. Stick to Kansas. You got to win Kansas every year, absolutely. But, get into Kansas City, win those battles. Get some good guys out of Texas. I don't think much really needs to change as far as, your recruiting areas.
Yep. This will be his 5th season, K-State, right?
Yes.
I mean, the seeds have all been planted. There's no need to try to switch it up now with a couple new schools coming in. So I agree, Zach.
Yeah.
Last question.
There we go.
Ready from Pickles.
Pickles.
Can the new Big 12 get at least 3 first-round draft picks every year?
Ooh, that's good. That's hard to say. That might be tough. Although, it seems like Cincinnati a year ago, after their playoff run, I think they had a couple guys in the first round. I mean, they were loaded. They had like 8 guys picked or something. I don't know. I'm just talking to my butt right now. But I was impressed. So schools are capable of it. I'm just going to say it. A reason why Kansas State hasn't had much recent success until this year was they didn't have enough elite talent. They didn't have first-round picks. They haven't had a first-round pick since Josh Freeman. I mean, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. The last first-round pick from Bill Snyder was Terrence Newman, and you're going back to early 2000s. So talent isn't everything. Bill Snyder proved that. He could play at a pretty high level without the elite, first-round NFL-type guys, but, boy, it makes your life a lot easier. So K-State can get someone into the first round this year, which is possible. A sliver of a chance I get 2 in there. And probably a better chance neither one of them, Brents or Felix, go in the first round. But it's a showing that they're escalating their talent. They're increasing. May I say they're elevating their talent level on the football side. And I think that will continue. They recognize talent. They develop talent. And that's why K-State all of a sudden pops up and wins a Big 12 title and goes to the Sugar Bowl, because they had more talent than usual. Did they have enough talent? Well, obviously not. Alabama beat the snot out of them for 3 minutes to win that game. And, other 57, they were good enough. But, I don't think it'll happen. I don't. I mean, that's what you're talking about with the NFL. Just isn't great football players. They're great football players of a certain stature who meet certain physical requirements. Deuce Vaughn is an incredible college running back, but I don't know. I don't think he'll go in the 5th round. I think he'll be a 6th, 7th round kind of guy, maybe, just because he's so small. But it was Alabama couldn't tackle him when he got in the open field. TCU couldn't tackle him in the open field. But it doesn't meet the NFL threshold. I'm less caught up in that than your production in college, but it is a legitimate measurement.
But if half the league is Alabama players, what does that say about Deuce Vaughn?
Well, I agree. I think they're wrong. I mean, the same thing was said about Darren Sproles, and he played until he was 97 years old. Did you know that?
97?
He was 97 when he retired.
Wow.
But he was so short, people couldn't tell he was old. I don't know what that has, what correlation that is, but it's science. Just trust the science.
Our friends at Caesar Sportsbook have a prop on the Big 12 players drafted in the first round. You guys want to take a guess?
I guess the over-under is 1.5.
Fitz is drinking water, so he's busy.
2.5.
It's 4.5. Oh. Granted, the under is juiced to minus 180, but you're losing Texas and OU, and I don't know if this year is probably a better class for the Big 12 than usual. You're going to lose those 2 schools, but you're getting 4 new schools coming in. So if it's 4.5 this year, question from Pickles is 3. I think they can get over that consistently with the new Big 12.
I wonder, do you think Bijan's a first-round guy?
That's a good question.
I mean, the value of running backs overall in the league is dreadful.
Yeah.
They cash them out. They just run through them. I heard an expert on someone's radio show. I can't remember which one I was listening to in one of my daily drives. That running backs now aren't just the lowest valued position group. It's by far. And, so Bijan's an incredible running back that fits the NFL profile. Where'd he go? It might be not till the 2nd round, but he might be so good someone grabs him. 4.5? Man, I don't see it. I don't. But we'll be done with it.
Take a bet on it. It's legal here. Nothing's stopping you doing that.
What was the over?
What was the? So his over was plus 150, and under was minus 180. So
yeah.
No, I'm not touching that.
I don't think the 3 of us studied the mock draft boards enough to go through each.
How have they lowered that down to 3.5?
Whoa! You're supposed to study before you make bets?
No.
Someone tell me this.
That's why it's called gambling. You're just chucking it around.
Well, I did with baseball and hit a parlay the other day.
That was ridiculous.
I'm on another one today. I'm like 2 games away from having another good payday.
You need to post them to Pickett so we can tell you.
I don't want to. I just want to win in private and then tell you about it. That's it for the PowerCat Questions podcast. We'll be back over the weekend with the overtime. We're getting great reviews on the overtime. People love the overtime this year. I don't know what it is. It's the same old overtime. I think it's Ryan Gilbert's being extra entertaining. I'm just going to give him all the credit. That's it. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you for listening to the PowerCat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts. PowerCat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
CBS Sunday, February 11th, after Super Bowl 58.
You collect rewards, right?
This is how I make my living.
It's the debut
Everyone's looking for something.
of a new hero.
You strong swimmer? So-so. So-so's okay.
Justin Hartley stars.
How you survive, you make quick, smart decisions, and you never let panic take the wheel. Sounds cool. It is cool, actually. Very cool.
Tracker, part of CBS Premiere Week, Sunday, February 11th, after Super Bowl 58 on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.